You're listening to the Dirt Racing Podcast.
Yes, you are. This is another edition of the Dirt Racing Podcast. We have lots of results to cover in this week's edition. We'll start over at the CJ Speedway on Friday night. They got their racing program in for week one. And picking up the win in the modifieds was the 53 of Logan Hervey Anderson. Second to 71C of Troy Cordes. Third, 77 Kurt Kyle. Fourth, the 07X of Troy Morris. Adam Shillman, the 3S, was fifth. Sixth was the 22 Brandon Banks. Seventh, Blaine Webster in the 7. Eighth was the 2Z of Zach Rollins. Ninth, Colton Osborne in the 72. 10th was Jerry King in the 70. 8th, the 8H Kyle Houston, it was 11th. 12th to 79 Barry Deegan. Preston Williams in 43 was 13th. Credited with 14th and did not start with the 20 of Danny Brown. And 15th, it did not start with the 96 of Matt Lundry. In the stock cars, picking up the win was the 10G of Dustin Griffiths. Second, the 05 Junior John Oliver. Third was the 23W Keegan Wells. Fourth, 21M of Kurt Kensley. Fifth, Shane Richardson in 57. Sixth, the 56A Austin O'Donnell. Curtis Klein in the 88 CW was 7th. 8th was the 27 of Matt Pickney. 9th was Dan Brockhart in the 30. 10th was Kenny O'Donnell in 56. 11th was the 746 of Garrett Porter. Greg Osman in the 25 was 12th. 13th, the 97 of Robert Barnes. Bronson Spa in the 08 was 14th. 15th, the 75 ounce of Austin Kemper. Brady Fenton in the 96F was 16th. 17th, the 22 of Blaine Bryant. 18th, the 826 of Jesse Anderson. 19th was Trenton Wett in the 33. And 20th was the 83 of James Cummings. In the sport mods was your winner was the 117 Dylan Van Wyck. Second, 29 Colton Lizzie. Third was the 44G of Levi Gaunt. Fourth was the 7W of Will Wolf. Sean Slaughter in 00 was fifth. Sixth, the 7T of Trey Rock. Todd Hanson in 21 was 7th. 8th was the 16 Joel Payne. 9th, the 55 of Dustin Griffiths. 10th was Cole Vanderwall in the 11X. Jesse Jundle in the 92X was 11th. 12th was the 10S of Sheldon Hubert. Jim Russell in the CB25 was 13th. 14th, the 10L of Levi Lehman. 15th was Shane Wright in the 9. And 16th, the 45 of Johnny Williams. In the hobby stocks, your winner was the 29N of Nathan Ballard. Second was the 55X of Corey Vanderwelt. Third, the 25 of Tucker Richardson. Fourth, 22G of Brad Graham. Fifth, the 88H of Kel Hemsley. Keaton Gordon in the 7 was 6th. 7th was the 12 of Austin Stratler. Kyler Burmeister in the 26 was 8th. 9th was the 88 of Jason Shutterly. Billy Stanford in the 52 was 10th. 11th, the IB25 of Jacob Chamberlain. Brian Kriegel in the 17K was 12th. 13th, the 4K of August Bosch. And the 6P of Preston McDonald was 14th. Over at 34 Raceway, they got in their racing program on Friday night. The preview of the Slocum the night before the Slocum 50. We'll start with your dirt late models with time trials. There is two groups of time trials. We'll start with Group 1. Group 1 quick time was the 22 of Drake Troutman at a 15.409. Second was the 25 of Chad Simpson at a 15.545. Third was the 75 of Daniel Adam at a 15.574. Fourth was the 32 of Bobby Pierce at a 15.577. Fifth was the B5 of Brandon Shepard at a 15.582. Sixth was 11H Jeff Herzog at a 15.644. Tony Jackson in the 56 was 7th at a 15.667. Chris Simpson in the 32 car was 8th at a 15.716. Ninth was the 38T of Dylan Thornton at a 15.809. 10th was the 4G of Bob Gardner at a 15.446. 11th was the 15 Justin Duty at a 15.853. 12th was the 1M of Aaron Moran at a 15.856. 13th was Trevor Gunmaker in the 11 at a 15.874. 14th was Derek Stewart in the 43 at a 16.093. Darren Klein in the 10 was 15th at a 16.103. 16th was the 38J Jake Little at a 61.63. 17th was the 51 of Matt Furman at a 16.195. 18th, 26th of Glenn Powell at a 16.382. The GT1 of Guy Taylor was 19th at a 16.414. And 20th was the 3 of Brandon Willard at a 16.415. Group 2 went to the quick time was Garrett Albertson at 58 at a 15.053. Second was the Carson Ferguson 93 at a 15.136. Third was the 3S of Brian Shirley at a 15.194. Fourth was Dennis Urban 28 at a 15.409. Fifth was the 96 of Tanner English at a 15.512. Sixth was the 25 of Jason Vager at a 15.549. Seventh was the 24 of Ryan Unseeker at a 15.583. McKay Winger 99 was 8th at a 15.605. The Wawinka Missile, the 18 Shannon Mab, was 9th at a 15.719. 10th was the 1ST of Justin Reed at a 15.725. Steve Soltz in 80 in the 78 was 11th at a 15.773. Caden Klatt in the 50 was 12th at a 15.802. 13th, the 49 Jake Tim at a 15.813. 14th was the 99 junior Frank Heckenish at a 15.849. 15th, the 4 of Dalton Helm, the 4X at 16.071. 16th was the 17A of Austin Howes at 16.081. 17th, 11 of Corey Gunmaker at a 16.200. 18th was the 30 of Mark Voigt at a 16.330. And 19th was the 17 of Tim Simpson at a 16.702. We'll go to the heat races. Took the top 4 directly to the A. Picking up heat race 1 was Drake Talman. Second, Brandon Shepard. Third, Daniel Adam. Fourth and final transfer was Dylan Thornton. Fifth was Justin Duty. Sixth, Tony Jackson. Seventh was Matt Furman. Eighth, Darren Klein. Ninth, Trevor Gunmaker. And 10th, Guy Taylor. Heat race 2 went to Bobby Pierce. Second, Chad Simpson. Jeff Herzog was third. And fourth and final transfer was Chris Simpson. Fifth was Bob Gardner. Sixth, Jake Little. Seventh, Derek Stewart. Eighth, Clem Howell. Ninth, Brandon Willard. And 10th, Aaron Moran. Heat race 3 went to Brian Shirley. Second, Garrett Albertson. Third, Tanner English. Fourth and final transfer was Shannon Babb. Fifth went to Steve Schultz. Sixth, Ryan Unziker. Seventh, Jake Tim. Eighth, Tim Simpson. Ninth was Gordy Gunmaker. And 10th, Dalton Helm. Heat race number 4 went to Dennis Erb. Second, Carson Ferguson. Third to Jason Vager. And fourth and final transfer Justin Reed. They're followed by 5th, McCain Wager. 6th, Frank Hakanesh. 7th, Caden Clatt. 8th, Mark Voigt. 9th, Austin Howells. In B main number 1, they took the top 2. Justin Duty was your winner. Second final transfer was Jake Little. Coming home third was Matt Furman. Fourth, Trevor Gunmaker. Fifth, Derek Stewart. Sixth, Bob Gardner. Seventh, Brandon Willard. Eighth, Clem Howell. Ninth, Aaron Moran. The wrestler did not finish or did not start. Credited with 10th was Guy Taylor. 10th, 11th, Tony Jackson. And did not start was Darren Klein. And 12th. B-Way number 2 went to McCain Wager. Second final transfer, Frank Hakanesh. Third went to Ryan Unziker. Steve Schultz was fourth. Fifth, Jake Tim. Sixth, Gordy Gunmaker. Seventh, Austin Howells. Eighth, Caden Clatt. Ninth, to Tim Simpson. 10th, to Dalton Helm. And credited with 11th and did not finish, Mark Voigt. In the feature event, your winner was Bobby Pierce. Second, Dennis Erb. Third, Brian Shirley. Fourth, Carson Ferguson. Fifth, Shannon Babb. Sixth, Brandon Shepard. Seventh, Garrett Albertson. Eighth, Justin Duty. Ninth, Jason Vager. 10th, Tony Jackson. 11th was Chris Simpson. 12th, Jeff Herzog. McCain Wager was 13th. 14th, Tanner English. 15th, Chad Simpson. 16th, Bob Gardner. 17th, Justin Reed. 18th, Daniel Adam. 19th, Jake Little. The wrestler did not finish this. 20th was Dylan Thornton. 21st, Drake Talman. And 22nd, Frank Hakanesh. Also on the card was the 305 Wing Sprint Cars. Their feature went to the 27I of Tanner Gebhardt. Second, the 41X of Jeff Wilkie. Third, the 31 of McClain Richards. Fourth, the 88 of Riley Scott. Cale Hemerson in the 52H was fifth. Sixth, the 01 Travis Pence. The wrestler did not finish and did not start. Credited with seventh was the 16 HD and Donnie Stewart. Colt Fisher in 17 was 8th. 9th to 56 of Matt Krieger. And did not start. Credited with 10th to 7 being Nick Guernsey. Also, on Saturday night, we'll do the Slocum 50. There was the Slocum 50 at the 34 Raceway. We'll start with the time trials for the late models. Picking up the quick time was the 3S of Brian Shirley at 15.183. Second was the 28 of Dennis Erb at 15.375. Third was 3018 Dylan Thornton at a 15.413. Fourth was the 19 Ryan Gustin at a 15,535. Garrett Albertson in the 58 was fifth at a 15,536. Sixth was the 99 McLean Winger at a 15,540. Seventh was the 10 of Derek Klein at a 15,553. Eighth was the 28 for Ryan Utzinger at 15,609. Ninth was the 32 Chris Simpson at 15,621. 10th was 11 of Trevor Gunmaker at 15,641. 11th was the 22 Jake Troutman at 15,664. 12th was the 11 of Gordon Gunmaker at a 15,668. 13th was the 25 of Chad Simpson at a 15,681. 14th was the 43 Derek Stewart at a 15,735. 15th was the 1X of Aaron Morant at a 741. Brandon Willard in 3 was 16th at a 15,907. 17th was Jake Little in the 38J at a 16,247. Dalton Helm in the 4X was 18th at a 16,449. And 19th was the 26 of Glenn Powell at a 16,506. In Group 2 was quick time was the 32 of Bobby Pierce at a 15,254. Second was Carson Ferguson in 93 at a 15,438. Third was the 50 of Caden Klatt at a 15,480. Fourth was the 56 of Tony Jackson at 15,488. Jeff Herzog in the 11 was fifth at a 15,502. Tanner English in the 96 was sixth at a 15,530. Seventh was the 75 of Daniel Adam at a 15,555. Brandon Shepard in the B5 was eighth at a 15,651. Ninth was the 15 of Justin Duty at a 15,687. Jason Vager was 10th at 25 at a 15,700. 11th was the 4G of Bob Gardner at a 15,787. 12th was the 49 of Jake Tim at a 15,816. 13th was Austin Howes in the 17A at a 15,838. 14th was the 18 of the Malik Commercial Shannon Mab at an 18 or at a 15,875 in the 18. 15th was 78 Steve Schultz at a 15,880. Matt Furman at the 51 was 16th at a 15,888. 17th was Trey Kekanesh in the 99 Junior at a 15,968. 18th was the 30 Mark Voigt at a 16,161. And 19th was the 17 of Tim Simpson at a 16,194. He race 1 with the Brian Shirt top 4 transferred again. Brian Shirley was your winner. Second, Darren Klein. Third, Dylan Thornton. Fourth and final transfer, Drake Troutman. Fifth was Garrett Albertson. Sixth, Chris Simpson. Seventh, Jake Little. Eighth, Chad Simpson. Ninth, Aaron Morant. And 10th, Glenn Powell. Heat race number 2 went to Dennis Erb. McCain Wanger was second. Third, Gordy Gunmaker. And fourth was Trevor. And final transfer was Trevor Gunmaker. Fifth was Ryan Unsker. Sixth, Ryan Gusson. Seventh, Derek Stewart. Eighth, Dalton Helm. Ninth, Brandon Willard. Heat race number 3 went to Bobby Pierce. Caden Klatt was second. Third, Justin Duty. And Jeff Herzog was fourth. And final transfer. Fifth was Frank Heckenesh. Sixth, Bob Gardner. Seventh, Daniel Adam. Eighth, Steve Schultz. Ninth, Tim Simpson. And 10th, and did not finish, was Austin Howells. Heat race number 4 went to Carson Ferguson. Second, Tony Jackson. Third, Brandon Shepard. Fourth and final transfer, Jake Tim. Fifth was Tanner English. Sixth, Shannon Babb. Seventh, Jason Fager. Eighth, Matt Furman. And ninth, to Mark Voigt. B main number 1 went to Garrett Albertson. Second, final transfer, Ryan Huntinger. Third was Chris Simpson. Fourth, Ryan Guston. Fifth, Brandon Willard. Sixth, Chad Simpson. Seventh, Aaron Morant. Eighth, Derek Stewart. Ninth, Glenn Powell. Did not finish. And 10th was Jake Little. And 11th, and did not finish, was Dalton Helm. B main number 2 went to Frank Heckenesh. Second and final transfer was Shannon Babb. Third was Tanner English. Fourth, Jason Fager. Fifth, Daniel Adam. Sixth, Bob Gardner. Seventh, Steve Schultz. Eighth, Tim Simpson. The rest were did not finishes or did not start. Credited with ninth was Matt Furman. 10th was Mark Voigt and did not start. And 11th was Austin Howells. In the big 50-lap feature, it was Bobby Pierce, your winner. Second, Carson Ferguson. Third, Dennis Erb. Fourth, Gordy Gunmaker. Fifth, Tony Jackson. Sixth, Jake Tim. Seventh, Brian Unsinger. Eighth, McCain Winger. Ninth, Brian Shirley. 10th, Dylan Thornton. 11th was Garrett Albertson. 12th was Chris Simpson. 13th was Trevor Gunmaker. 14th, Jason Fager. 15th, Justin Duty. 16th, Drake Troutman. 17th, Jeff Herzog. 18th, Tanner English. 19th, Brandon Shepard. 20th, Shannon Babb. The rest were did not finishes. 21st was Darren Klein. 22nd, Caden Klatt. And 23rd, Frank Heckenesh. Also on the card was modifieds and stock cars. Picking up the win in the modifieds was the 53 of Logan Herbie Anderson. Second was Carson Ferguson. Third was Danny Eckridge. Fourth was Dustin Wilwert in the 7D. Danny Eckridge was in the 50. The 7D was fourth with Dustin Wilwert. Fifth was the 8C of Michael Clays. Blaze Lewis in the 44X was sixth. Seventh was the 9Z of Chris Zog. John Oliver in the 71 was eighth. Ninth, Andrew Hamburg in 57. Scott Brown was 10th in the 26th, and credited with 11th and did not finish was the 5R Bill Roberts. Also on the card was the stock cars. Picking up the win was the 21M of Kurt Kensley. Second, the 7V Brandon Carter. Third, the 05 of John Oliver. Fourth, Corey Saucerin in the C4. Fifth, Austin O'Donnell in the 56A. And credited with sixth, the 17U of Chuck Underwood. Saturday night, the World of Outlaws got to race at the Knoxville Raceway after Friday night missed out. And I'm not kidding. The mist, instead of rain out, the mist caused it to be canceled. There were 65 cars in attendance. We'll do two groups of time trials. The top 20 made the heat races. Everybody else had to go to a non-qualifiers. Quick time was in Group 1 was the 24A, Rico Abreu at a 15-2 202. Second, the 27 of Emerson Axum at a 15.208. Third was the 57 of Kyle Larson at 15.269. Fourth was the 7 BC of Tyler Courtney at a 15.295. Fifth, the 2C of Cole Vecino at a 15.300. Sixth, the 10 of Ryan Tibbs at a 15.413. Seventh was the 21 Brian Brown at a 15.425. Eighth was the 14 of Spencer Maston at a 15.463. Ninth was the 2M of JJ Hinkle at a 15.487. 10th was the 55B, the Madman Kerry Matson at a 15.542. 11th was the 78 of Scott McGiskey at a 15.543. 12th was the 2KS of Corey Eliason at 15.591. 13th was the 71 the law firm Parker Price Miller at a 15.591. 14th was the 41 of Carson Messino at a 15.610. 15th was the 9R Chase Randall at a 15.631. 16th was the 3 of the Dirt Racing Podcast driver, Ayrton Jensen, at a 15.641. 17th was the 17 of Sheldon Hodchild at a 15.642. 8th was the G5 of Gage Polterbeck at a 16.646. 19th was the 21T of Tanner Holmes at a 15.650. And 20th was the Dirt Racing Podcast driver, 6 of Zach Hampton at a 15.664. He was the last one to make a heat race. These cars all went to the non-qualifiers 1. The 21st was the 13 of Nathan Persley at a 15.679. 22nd was the Dirt Racing Podcast driver, 99 Skylar G at a 15.699. 23rd, 31 Kyle Bellum at a 15.837. 24th was the 3P of Sawyer Phillips at a 15.840. 25th, the 15 Donnie Shots at a 15.841. 26th to 19 of Kevin Thomas at a 15.842. 27th, the Dirt Racing Podcast driver T-Mac Terry McCarroll, 24 at a 15.859. 28th to 23 L Jimmy Light at a 15.958. 29th, the 8H of Jacob Hughes at a 16.197. 30th was the ADP of Jacob Peterson at a 260. 31st to 7B of Ben Brown at a 16.305. And 32nd in no time was this 27B of Jake Vuback. Group 2, same deal. Top 20 make the heat races. Your quick time was the 87 Aaron Reitzel at 15.717. Second was the 27M of Carson McCarl, Dirt Racing Podcast driver, at a 15.752. Third, the Dirt Racing Podcast driver, the 1S, the Logan Stewart, at 15.780. Fourth, the 18 of Gio Selzy at a 15.796. Fifth, the 2 of David Gravel at a 15.817. Sixth, the 1 of Tasker Phillips at a 15.886. Seventh, 22 Riley Goodo at a 15.890. Eighth, the 88 Austin McCarl of the Racing Podcast driver at a 15.918. Ninth was the 4W Jamie Ball at a 977. 10th was the 7S Chris Wyndham at a 15.985. 11th, the 17B of Bill Baylock at 16.005. 12th was the 49 Brad Slee at a 16.009. 13th was the 6K Caleb Johnson at a 16:034. 14th, the 44 Chris Martin at a 16:076. 15th was the 23 Garrett Williamson at a 16:130. 16th, the 83 of Michael Buddy Kilfoy at a 16:164. 17th, the 12X of Cameron Key at a 16:166. 18th was the 1K of Kobe Watt at a 16:170. 19th, the 55 of Hunter Scherber at a 16:171. And 20th, quick, the 4 Cameron Martin at a 16:327. Those made the heat. The rest went to non-qualifiers. 21st, the 3L Darren Pittman, 16:357. 22nd, 71W Brandon Worthington at a 16:398. 23rd, the 09 Matt Jewell, 16:400. 24th, 6X Dustin Salvage at a 16:517. 25th, the 28M of Carter Burrell at a 16:570 or 540. 26th, the 39 of Lynn Jeffrey at 16:827. 27th, the 44 of Scotty Johnson at a 16:842. 28th, the 45X of Landon Crawley at a 16:876. 29th, the 121 of RJ Johnson at 17:096. 30th was Jason Martin in 36 at a 17:168. 31st was the 15 junior Cole Meister Dirt Racing Podcast driver at a 16:699. 32nd to 32B and Brandon Smithhaler with no time. And 33rd, the 17A and Jack Anderson with no time. Non-qualifiers. Heat race number 1. The top 2 went to heat races. Everybody else would go to C or D main. Your winner was Jason Persley. Second final transfer Skylar G. Followed by third Donnie Schatz. Fourth Sawyer Phillips. Fifth Kevin Thomas. Sixth Ben Brown. Seventh Kyle Bell. Eighth Jacob Hughes. Ninth Jimmy Light. 10th Jacob Peterson. Did not starts were Terry McCarroll and Jake Buback. Non-qualifiers race number 2. Your winner was Darren Pittman. Jason Morton was the second final transfer. Third was Matt Jewell. Fourth, Landon Crawley. Fifth, Brandon Worthington. Sixth, Connor Burrell. Seventh, Brandon Smithhaler. Eighth, Cole Meister. Ninth, RJ Johnson. The did not starts were Dustin Salmons, Linton Jeffrey, Scotty Johnson, and Jack Anderson. Heat race 1. The heat races, top 4 go directly to A. Everybody else went to a B or a C. Heat race 1 went to Rico Abreu. Second, Brian Brown. Third, Kyle Larson. Fourth, top 5, excuse me. Fourth was Cole Mancino, and fifth and final transfer was Parker Price Miller. Sixth, Chase Randall. Seventh, Sheldon Hodgson. Eighth, Scott McGiskey. Ninth, Tanner Holmes. 10th, J.J. Hinkle. And 11th, Jason Persley. Heat race 2 went to Emerson Axum. Second, Tyler Courtney. Third, Ryan Tibbs. Fourth, Spencer Mason. Fifth and final transfer was Kerry Madsen. Sixth was Carson Messino. Seventh, Corey Eliason. Eighth, Aaron Jensen. Ninth, Skylar G. 10th, Zach Hampton. And Gage Pulsterback was 11th. Heat race number 3 went to Logan Schuhart. Second, Aaron Reitzel. Third, David Gravel. Fourth, Riley Goodo. Fifth and final transfer was Garrett Williamson. Sixth, Bill Baylog. Seventh, Hunter Sherber. Eighth, Jamie Ball. Ninth, Caleb Johnson. 10th, Darren Pittman. And 11th, Cameron Key. Heat race number 4 went to Gio Selzy. Second, Carson McCarl. Third, Austin McCarl. Fourth, Brad Sweet. Fifth, to Chris Wyndham was the fifth and final transfer. Sixth, to Michael Buddy Kilfoy. Seventh, Chris Martin. Eighth, Jason Martin. Ninth, Kobe Watt. 10th, Cameron Martin. And Tasker Phillips that got upside down in the heat race was 11th. The D main, took 2 to the back of the C. Your winner was Kyle Bellum. Second and final transfer, Brandon Spihaler. Third was Jacob Hughes. Fourth, Cole Meitzer. Fifth, Jimmy Light. Sixth, Jacob Peterson. And the rest did not start. Were R.J. Johnson, Dustin Salvage, Terry McCarl, Lynn Jeffrey, Jake Buback, Scotty Johnson, and Jack Anderson. The C main also took 2 to the back of the B. Your winner was Zach Hampton. Second final transfer, Donnie Schatz. Third was Cam Martin. Fourth, Sawyer Phillips. Fifth, Aaron Pittman. Sixth, Matt Jewell. Seventh, Landon Crawley. Eighth, to Kevin Thomas. Ninth, Ben Brown. 10th, Kyle Bellum. 11th, Brandon Spihaler. 12th, Cameron Key. 13th, Brandon Warrington. 14th, Connor Burrow. 15th, Gage Pulsarek. And did not start was Nason Persley. In the dash went to Logan Schuhart. Second, Aaron Reitzel. Third, Rico Abreu. Fourth, Tyler Courtney. Fifth, Gio Selzy. Sixth, Brian Brown. Seventh, Emerson Axum. And eighth, Carson McCarl. The B main went to J.J. Hinkle. Second, to Chase Randall. Third, Carson Mancino. Fourth and final transfer, Bill Baylog. Fifth was Michael Buddy Kilfoy. Sixth, Sheldon Hodgel. Seventh, Corey Eliason. Eighth, Chris Martin. Ninth, Caleb Johnson. 10th, Hunter Scherberg. 11th, Donnie Schatz. 12th, Jamie Ball. 13th, Tanner Holmes. 14th, Scott McGiskey. 15th, Kobe Watts. 16th, Zach Hampton. 17th, Aaron Janneton. 18th, Jason Martin. 19th, Skylar G. And did not start was Tasker Phillips. In the feature, your winner was Rico Abreu. Second was Kyle Larson. Third, Logan Schuhart. Fourth, Tyler Courtney. Fifth, Aaron Reitzel. Sixth, David Grammel. Seventh, Gio Selzy. Eighth was Austin McCarl. Ninth, Brad Sweet. 10th was Emerson Axum. 11th, Brian Brown. 12th, Michael Buddy Kilfoy from 25th. 13th, Colby Macedo. 14th, Spencer Mason. 15th, Sheldon Hodgschultz. 16th, Ryan Timms. 17th, Donnie Schatz. 18th, Carson McCarl. 19th, Chase Randall. 20th, Kerry Matson. 21st, Parker Price Miller. 22nd, Riley Goodell. 23rd, J.J. Hinkle. 24th, Garrett Williamson. 25th, Bill Baylock. 26th, Chris Wyndham. 27th, Carson Macedo. Reitzel led 1-8, and Brew led 9-25. The hard charger we mentioned was Kilfoy. Also, our other track on Friday night, the Marshalltown Speedway, was rained out. So upcoming action for this weekend, there is a practice night at Knoxville for all classes of the pros, 360 and 410s. Over at Marshalltown Speedway, they'll try the season opener once again, their points opener once again, with modified stock cars, sport mod, hobby stocks, mod lights, and sport compacts. Over at the CJ Speedway, weekly racing action continues with the IMCA modifieds, IMC stock cars, sport mods, hobby stocks, and mini haulers on the racing program. That's Friday night. Saturday night at the 34 Raceway is the points opener featuring the 305 wing sprint cars, stock car modified late models, sport mods, and sport compacts. And the points opener starts at Knoxville on Saturday night as we will have the 410s, 360s, and pros sprints on the card. And then the Wednesday night, Southern Iowa Speedway kicks off their season opener with sport mods, stock car, hobby stocks, sport compacts, and non-wing sprint cars. This has been another edition of the Dirt Racing Podcast. We'll see you next week. Always be sure to check out our Twitter or X page, as I'll provide lineup updates of the Knoxville Raceway on Saturday night. For sure. Until then, this has been another edition of the Dirt Racing Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Dirt Racing Podcast with Marshall Hain. Follow us on Twitter at Dirt_Podcast or on Facebook at the Dirt Racing Podcast.